Breaking news, special report. Drones are everywhere. They're over your homes, they're at the airports, they're over military installations. They're even flying over my local nuclear facility just a couple miles from my house. People are saying they could be planning the next Pearl Harbor right here on American soil. I have been a drone pilot before quadcopters even existed, and I made the most popular FAA certification for professional drone pilots. I'm an expert at this stuff. I'll get to the bottom of what's going on. But first I want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. You need a presence on the web, but you don't want the social media giants controlling it. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Tanstaffel. If your social media is free, guess what? You're the product. They're selling advertising on your page and they can make it go away at any time. If you want to really own your space on the web, start at squarespace.com/Tony. Get a completely free trial. No credit card required. Try it out. Make your website look beautiful. Sell your product. Take appointments from clients. Just make your photos and video reels stand out. Whatever you can imagine starts at squarespace.com/Tony. When you love it, the coupon code Tony gets you 10% off. Thanks for making this possible, Squarespace. First, let's look at a really alarming hazardous drone operation in Boston. Drones flying near airports can shut down the whole operation. That's if they see the drones before a plane actually hits it. This could potentially lead to crashed airplanes, lost human lives, disaster. This happens because, well, some people are assholes, and some have cars, guns, cameras, and yeah, some have drones, and they are dangerous and they are breaking the law. But most people with drones are not doing that. Most people with drones are people like myself. We have everything registered, we're certified, and we're just getting beautiful shots, or we're doing real estate photography. So please don't think that every drone you see is necessarily dangerous. We're probably just doing work or having fun. But people around the country, especially New Jersey, but often in my own neighborhood in this past week, are seeing scary things, and they're getting it on video and they're sharing it. Here's a video from Jared Christopher.
My camera all the way up to the drone. This is what I get. It has a round, like, shield around it. F***ing nuts.
He's right. That's f***ing nuts. I have Forcefield drones in my own house even. Check out this footage I just made. Whoa, cut. Yeah, that's not a drone with a force field. That's a point of light that's out of focus. It's called a bokeh ball. You see this in every city night scene in a movie. The out of focus lights become big and round or oddly shaped, and sometimes they move around or even blink. If you see a light in any video and it's big and round like that, the camera's out of focus and you should dismiss it because we don't study out of focus videos. Get it in focus and then we can take a little look at it. Let's look at another video. Okay, that's a flying Kirby. Clearly, what is it doing in the air? That is crazy. That shot's clearly out of focus, but maybe we can tell a little bit about it by studying the lights. Now, the person who took that was in an airplane that was landing or taking off, so presumably they were near an airport. The front of that object has bright white continuous lights. You know what? The FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has some rules about this. An airplane that's flying under 10,000 feet, generally taking off or landing, puts on landing lights so that the airplane is more visible to the towers. So those could be landing lights to improve the visibility at night and make it a little less likely that two airplanes crash into each other. They also have beacon lights, which are flashing red lights. The FAA also requires airplanes to have strobe lights, which are white lights on the wingtips that tend to blink, hence the name strobe, and there are navigation lights. A red light on the left wing, a green light on the right wing. You can remember green has 5 letters, right has 5 letters, and then a white light at the rear of the airplane. These 3 lights allow you to tell the orientation and direction an airplane is facing. So if you see some blobby thing and it has red and green and white lights, you can pretty much tell what direction that is going, but you can also tell that that weird flying object, whatever it is following FAA guidelines and thus maybe isn't so scary or mysterious. Sometimes airplanes can have extra lights, and if it is actually a consumer drone like one of these, the lights could be different. People actually strap all sorts of weird lights to their drones to help with navigation at night, so they might not comply with that. But let's take another look at this video and think about some things. First of all, if you've ever been in an airplane, you know the windows are super thick, sort of terrible optical quality plastic, and they're 2 layers deep. So everything through the window looks pretty bad. It's also out of focus. But what's more, this person filming this is on an airplane. But they're also taking off or landing because we know that they're close to the ground. And that means that there's air traffic control pretty close to them, and they monitor this guy's really, really closely. And none of these professionals freaked out, but the person on the plane did freak out and had to share it. But I want to point out, while that footage is clearly out of focus, trying to build a PC 1234 did not see it out of focus. They saw it clearly, and what they saw was an airplane with FAA-compliant lights, not a weird blob drone that they couldn't explain. And so I'm calling you out trying to build a PC 1234. You're a shit poster. You took a blurry video of an airplane and then tried to build a conspiracy around it. Let's take a look at another video from Brightside 2333. Okay, once again, if we look at this video, we see characteristic red and green lights. We see it is out of focus. The camera can't get it in focus, and that's why everything is bokeh balls. Now, that could be literally anything, but it's probably an airplane because it seems to have FAA compliant lights on it. A lot of people are saying they're seeing truck-sized drones, and that would be super disturbing, right? A big drone could potentially be dangerous, but how do they know it's as big as a truck? Because we use our depth perception to tell how far away something is. And then once we know how far away it is, we can sort of estimate its size, right? But depth perception with our 2 eyes is only useful to about 10 feet. Further than that, the way you tell depth is by kind of knowing how big things are. So if you see a truck that looks this small in your vision, you know it's far away. And if you see a truck that's this big in your vision, you know it's closer, even if you don't have depth perception from the stereo effect of your eyes. When something's in the night sky, you don't have anything relative to compare it to, and thus you don't have any way to tell how big it is. And if you think you're good at estimating how high an airplane is, do this. Install Flight Radar 24. And then when you see a plane flying overhead, pull it up and click on the little airplane. It will tell you what type of airplane it is, how high it is, and how fast it's going. And everyone I've ever tried this with is absolutely terrible at guessing how high the airplane is, including me, a drone pilot for 30 years. I see an airplane and I guess it's 1,500 feet and it'll be 3,500 feet, or vice versa, because our depth perception is not that effective when we're staring up at a sky, especially a night sky. And thus, you don't have any way to tell how big a drone actually is because you can't tell how far away it is. Also, why would you label a blob a drone? The difference between a drone and a helicopter or an airplane is whether there's a pilot in it, right? So it's all blurry. How are you going to know whether there's a pilot in there? You have no idea. If you do see something flying that looks really weird, do this. Install FlightAware or Flight Radar 24 and look it up. Now, it's not going to identify everything, but you will see major airlines, lots of private flights in there. So it might let you know that it's not something weird or crazy. Military planes, helicopters are often not in there. We have a Coast Guard station right here, and I see the helicopters all the time, and they don't show up in FlightAware. So it not being in there doesn't mean it's something nefarious. But if it is in there, you can quickly legitimize it and maybe not freak out everybody on the internet with your blurry video. Now, modern drones do have remote ID installed, and that means that they can be tracked, but only by law enforcement. For whatever reason, we've decided to make airplanes publicly trackable and drones not publicly trackable. And a lot of people are asking for drones to be tracked. They want to know what every single thing flying in the air is. But why stop there? Why not track cars? After all, cars hurt way more people than drones do. Cars hurt people literally every day. But we don't track cars because, well, we don't want our privacy invaded. We have to balance all this tracking with privacy concerns. And there's not one right answer. So in the comments, tell me what you think. Should the public be able to look at a drone and see what it's doing and who owns it? Or is that left to the privacy of the drone operator? Or should we keep it as it is now, where the FAA and the police have access to that? I also have to ask, why are all these videos at night? I think the answer is pretty easy. If it were during the day, you'd actually be able to see what it was. You would just see, oh, that's just an airplane, that's just a helicopter, that's just a drone. I don't need to freak out. But at night, these things look mysterious. You can't tell how big it is. But whether it's a mysterious drone or an airplane or a helicopter, we do have to ask ourselves, are these things dangerous? After all, it is pretty crazy that there's just stuff flying overhead all the time. It could do anything. It could spy on us. It could be carrying weapons. It could crash into us. Why don't we apply some basic logic to this? If they're flying at night, maybe they don't want to be detected. But if they don't want to be detected, why do they have lights all over them? Especially FAA-compliant blinking directional lights. If it were a spy craft, it wouldn't have lights. In fact, there are lots of military drones doing scary things. And when they're in enemy territory, they don't have lights because they don't want to be seen. If they have lights, it means they want to be seen, which means they're probably not doing anything nefarious. The lights are there for legal reasons and for safety reasons. If the drones are trying to spy on you, why are they the size of trucks? Drones don't have to be big to spy on you. I have a drone with a 5x telephoto zoom that is actually really good at spying on people. I wouldn't do that, but it could definitely do that. And it is the size of this drone. Small drones are much better for spying on you than big drones. Also, spying on people is a lot easier in the daylight. If you're at a military installation or a nuclear power facility and you wanted to see where the entrances were, or if it had some Death Star-like exhaust tube that you could just send a rocket down and blow the whole thing up, if you wanted to find that, you would do it during the daylight because sunlight makes spying on things much easier. Also, if the spies are trying to gain intel about a military facility or a nuclear power plant, well, guess what? People don't keep secrets outside where a drone could see them. People keep secrets inside. It's not like they lay out the blueprints for the next stealth fighter on the grounds outside so a drone could photograph it. Now, to me, it makes no difference whether there's a pilot in there. Thus, it makes no difference whether they're a drone or a helicopter or an airplane, because either way, it could be safe or it could be nefarious. But how do we know these aren't like dangerous drones disguised as airplanes? Well, we don't. We don't know anything. We don't know if we're living in a simulation or not. But there's no particular reason to think that these things are dangerous. And usually the simplest explanation is the right one. That's Occam's razor. And it is not full of proof. Sometimes the much more complex explanation ends up being the right one. But unless there's some powerful evidence that makes me think that these things are actually causing trouble, then I'm going to have to go with this. And you know what? So far, all these sightings, no actual problems have cropped up. There haven't been any attacks or explosions. But yes, as we established, drones can be used for dangerous things. Just look at Ukraine. Consumer drones can be scary and can really, really hurt people. So why can't the government look at your video and tell what it is? Well, you know what? Often people do specifically identify the flight that somebody was filming, because often if you shoot it with your phone, it's GPS tagged and timestamped. And you can just go back in the FlightAware app and figure out what plane was flying over your house at that particular time and that particular location. But they can't ID everything. Well, a lot of drones have remote ID installed, a lot don't. You can just buy parts and custom build a drone that is completely untrackable. So no, the government can't ID everything, and the fact that they're not IDing everything doesn't mean it's some conspiracy to cover it up. It just means they don't have that capability. Just like if you build your own go-kart and somebody sees it in the street, the government can't necessarily track it down. But why now? Why is everybody suddenly seeing drones now? Well, there's something called the recency effect. It's like if you just bought a Honda Odyssey, suddenly you start to see Honda Odysseys everywhere. If somebody brings something novel up to you, you are much more likely to spot it. And everybody's been talking about these drones. And now when we see a plane flying through the air, we're like, whoa, what is that? Is that a drone? What is that sound that I hear? And yeah, even my friends and neighbors in this area have brought this up to me over and over and over again. Why didn't I hear this before? It was there before. I know, because I've been flying drones around this neighborhood for years and nobody's really mentioned everything. But I wouldn't even try to fly it now unless I absolutely had to, because now everybody's freaking out about drones that have been there the whole time. And the thing is, people have been flying drones dangerously and illegally for a long time, and nobody has really noticed. Yeah, people fly them over 400 feet, the required amount. People fly them way out of sight. They go miles out of sight sometimes. They fly in no-fly zones. This has been happening since the first drones for decades, but nobody really noticed it. And now suddenly they are being scrutinized. And in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 friends in my neighborhood, FAA-certified pilots, all of them, that were contacted by the FAA about their flights. So if you are a drone pilot, you better get it buttoned down. You better be flying legally And even if you are flying legally, you better be prepared to answer the police if they come rolling up, because people are being told to call the police anytime they see a drone, even though the vast majority of drone flights are legitimate and legal. If you can't tell, I think this is a conspiracy, and it's mostly mass hysteria. I think that some conspiracies are real. And in fact, before drone stuff had taken over all the headlines, we were talking about a real conspiracy, which is the fact that healthcare companies choose who live and die based on spreadsheets. And now suddenly people are taking pictures of planes at night and talking about that instead of that real conspiracy. In the comments, let me know what you think about all of this. Are these things real? Is there something more that explains it? Do we need more government control? Do we need to scramble the F-16s and start shooting these floating blobs down? And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Squarespace, when you need a real presence on the web. Start at squarespace.com/Tony. You can set up a beautiful website with a completely free trial. No obligation required. Choose from many different templates. Set up something for your business, your personal project, your portfolio, your video reel, whatever you can imagine starts at squarespace.com/Tony. After your free trial, if you want to keep it running, use the coupon code Tony for 10% off. Thanks for sponsoring us, Squarespace. Bye.